we are going to go on a search for some organisms that live in an environment you might normally overlook and walk right by. I am talking about old rotten logs. So decomposing logs might not seem very glamorous, but they do make for an easily accessible and great spot where you can find some animals and other organisms that thrive in dark, damp, hidden spots that you might normally not see unless you go seeking them out. So we are going to check out some of those hidden spots and see what we can find. Here I have a log that is very close to the edge of the trail I'm walking on, which means I don't have to go far off trail and potentially step on lots of plants that are trying to grow. I also notice that there does not seem to be any poison ivy right around this log, which is great. Remember, leaves of 3, let it be. So when I roll over this log, I'm going to use my foot and pull the log towards me so that if there are any animals or anything else that might be under there that could sting or bite, I'll give them a chance to escape away from me. The very first thing I noticed when I rolled over this log is a little creature with 4 legs, a very long tail, mostly black body, and a bright orange stripe going down its back. So this little guy or girl is a red-backed salamander. And salamanders are amphibians. They do not have lungs. They actually breathe through their skin, which is one of the reasons they're so often found underneath logs or underneath rocks. They really like to hide in damp, dark places because their skin has to remain damp in order for them to breathe. So redback salamanders like this one are one of the most common salamanders in the Northeast and one of the most common vertebrates or animals with a spine in the Northeast as well. Most salamanders have a stage in their life cycle where they are in the water. The redback salamander is kind of unique among salamanders because they spend their entire lives on land. So as I picked up this log, it started to fall apart, which means it is nice and rotten. And I noticed someone squirming around down here. It is, of course, an earthworm. Someone who is very commonly seen under logs, under rocks, and of course in your compost as well. And worms are doing a similar job in all of those places. They are breaking down organic matter and recycling the nutrients, which is really helpful for us and for the environment. So if they are in your compost, they are likely eating your leftover food. If they are under a log, like here, they are probably munching on the dirt around them as well as the old wood. And they're breaking down that organic matter with their little mouth parts. And then as it moves through their body, they digest it, and it comes out the other end as these really nutrient-rich things called worm castings, which if you have a garden, you may actually put in there to help your plants grow because their castings are so full of nutrients. So this worm was pushing around in the dirt when I first disturbed him, and worms pushing around in the dirt is actually, surprisingly, really helpful for the dirt. It aerates the soil, makes holes so that oxygen and water can pass through more easily, as well as other insects and other animals that might call this environment home. So this worm is just going about his business and doing a lot of really helpful things for us and for other animals. I have another tiny, slow-moving friend right here, and this one was actually curled up in a ball just a second ago, but it is not a roly-poly. Although they also will curl up to defend themselves, this one is a millipede, which means 1,000 feet. Millipedes do not actually have 1,000 feet, but they can have hundreds of pairs of legs. Millipedes are very gentle, and they don't have any mouth parts that could bite us or hurt us, and they're not interested in biting us because they are just detritivores. So they are one of the creatures that are helping to break down the log I just found it under, because they're eating those old logs, old leaves, old fruits and vegetables, as well as fungus that they can find. Something you might see on a log is called a slime mold, sort of like this web-like yellow stuff we see here. And slime molds are independent single cells that often work together. And although it may look like it's just sitting and growing on top of this log, slime molds can actually move. They move very, very slowly, but in a couple of hours, the slime mold, in theory, could crawl to the end of this log here. And slime molds do come in a lot of different shapes and colors, and looking on rotten logs is really the best way to find them. You can also peel back the bark on a lot of these logs, and you may find a whole treasure trove of slime mold, like I just did right here. So what looks like little brown lumps right here are actually a kind of slime mold called wolf's milk slime mold. And they are one of my favorite slime molds. Not only do they have a really cool name, wolf's milk slime mold, but they also have a secret surprise inside when you poke them. So I'll show you what happens when you give them a little squeeze. They kind of erupt in this orange gooey slime. And it's just really satisfying to give them a poke like that. Now that I'm done investigating this log, I want to be sure to return the log to where it was originally placed. So all these creatures that we know are living under here now have their home returned to its normal state. So thanks for looking with me. I hope you guys have fun looking for your own decomposers and other amazing animals and slime molds under the logs near you. Bye.